I was there when the first tiger was delivered to the castle. It arrived by horse-drawn cart. 2 knights in full regalia rode along beside it, carrying the red, green, and black banner of Occitania. In the 16th century, knights were only used for spectacle. Gunpowder had rendered them obsolete for warfare. The tiger was inside an iron and wood box, with only a small slot for food. The box reeked after the 3-day journey from Occitania. Who knows how long it had been kept inside it before that? In 1523, kings and queens didn't concern themselves about the humane treatment of animals. To be fair, they weren't overly concerned about the humane treatment of humans either. The tiger was a gift in anticipation of the upcoming wedding between Princess Tullia of Esquaveta and Prince Dalrymple of Occitania. The marriage had been arranged 12 years earlier, when the princess was only 3. I had been in my workshop dissecting beetles when I was startled by a tug on my tunic. "I'm betrothed, Nato," the 3-year-old princess had proudly told me. She couldn't pronounce the L in Anatole. There was no door to the archway that separated my workshop from the castle corridor, but I'd hung 2 curtains made of beads and shells on either side of it. These not only added to my mystique as court magician, they warned me if anyone was coming. Princess Tullia, however, had a way of slipping through the curtains without making a sound, often startling me. "Congratulations," I replied. "Who's the lucky man?" Her face scrunched up in confusion. What man was I talking about? Since then, gifts had been sent back and forth between the 2 kingdoms. At first these were simple tokens of friendship, but as the wedding date drew closer, the gifts became increasingly extravagant, as each king tried to outdo the other. When the tiger arrived, the wedding was only 6 months away. Once the Occitanian knights had departed, King Sandro raised his hands to the heavens and bellowed, "What am I supposed to do with it?" Queen Karina, who had a predilection toward the unusual and exotic, suggested that the tiger be served at the wedding banquet. The kitchen steward immediately protested. He warned that tiger meat might be tough and stringy. In addition, the king worried that the Occitanians might be insulted if we butchered their most generous gift. An even bigger problem than what to do with it was how to reciprocate. That task fell to Dittieri, the king's regent. I took secret pleasure in seeing the regent's anguish as he fretted over finding the perfect gift. But I had problems of my own. The day before the arrival of the tiger, 22 sacks of black sand had been brought to me from Iceland. Xavier, the finance minister, had been with me when the sacks were hauled into my workshop. He was younger than me, with fiery red hair, but the pressures of his job had taken a toll. He had bags under his eyes and had developed a facial tic. According to him, the kingdom of Esquaveta was on the verge of bankruptcy. All wages would have to be cut by half. A number of soldiers had already deserted. We couldn't squeeze out any more taxes from the popolo minuto. As it was, all land, crops, and livestock were considered the property of the king. If an ox or a horse died, the peasant who had tended the animal was forced to compensate the king for his loss. Similarly, if that peasant died, his family had to compensate the king for the loss of a worker. These were dangerous times. We didn't dare let the French to the north or the Italian city-states to the south learn of our vulnerability. Even the Pope maintained a mercenary army and was always looking to expand the papal states. We just needed to make it through the wedding, which would first be preceded by a lavish banquet and then a week-long festival. The marriage between Princess Tullia and Prince Dalrymple had been dubbed the wedding of the century. The wedding was more than a marriage between 2 people. It would be the union of 2 kingdoms. We sophisticated Esquavetians had always looked down upon the crude and boorish Occitanians. The stereotypical Occitanian oaf was often the butt of our jokes. But the truth was, we desperately needed their fearsome army and their efficient economy. Inside my workshop, Xavier seemed more like a shipping clerk than the finance minister, making careful note as each sack of black sand was unloaded. There was a nervous excitement in his manner, giving me the sense that in his mind each sack was already filled with gold. I cautioned Xavier that whatever gold I might be able to produce would necessarily weigh less than the sand. He shrugged off my concern, saying there was plenty more sand on the black beach of Iceland. In hindsight, I should never have agreed to take on this project. My expertise was in the living world, plants, bugs, sea life, and animals. I had never applied my magic to rocks and minerals.